Hey there. Today I want to share some short story recommendations with you all and just a really brief explanation before I get into my list. I've been coming on this app for a couple of months and sharing some of my favorite books and just some snippets of text from books that I'm reading and enjoying. And I'm doing that because I spent more than half of my life being a high school English and social studies teacher, and it just feels like something that I still have to offer people. Well, I've been thinking a lot lately about how everything that I've recommended thus far has been focused on novels, on book length texts. And I know that there are a lot of people who want to read good literature, good material, but are maybe a little intimidated by tackling like a classic novel, or even by tackling a contemporary piece of fiction that's 300 or 400 pages. Maybe you haven't read a book in a really long time. Maybe you've never finished an entire book before. Maybe, the last book you read was for your high school freshman English class and you hated it. Or maybe you're at a season in your life right now where you don't feel like you have the time and energy to devote to something that's 300 or 400 pages long. And if you're like me, I struggle sometimes with audiobooks. I like the idea of an audiobook, but it's hard for me to really attend to what I'm hearing unless I'm also looking at the words. And or maybe you have little kids at home and it's just not feasible for you to have your earbuds in for a few hours a day. Whatever the case, I thought maybe it would be a good idea to share with you some shorter pieces of writing that are still really powerful and really important. So I came up with a list of 10 short stories that I wanted to recommend to you. They all have sort of a a social commentary aspect to them, or a dystopian kind of flair, maybe a little bit of science fiction. So if those are the kinds of stories that interest you in terms of like what movies you like or what television shows you enjoy, then maybe there will be something on this list that you would really like reading. What's even better is because they are a little bit older, almost all of them are available for free online. You would just do a search. You would say whatever the name of the short story is, and then the name of the author, and then PDF or read for free. And almost all of them, I haven't searched every single one, right? But almost all of them are available online for free. And I wanted to share this list with you because I wanted to reach out maybe to some people who are interested in being more readers, but don't feel like they have the time or the stamina or the energy to devote to an entire novel. And I also wanted to reach out to people who maybe have kids, teenagers at home, and you want to have some things that you all could maybe read and talk about, that you all could maybe use as a spark to like a bigger conversation. And I think these are all really good examples of that. Now, if I were giving an age range in terms of complexity of these stories, as well as like the social issues and aspects that are introduced in them, I would say these would be appropriate for most people ages 13 and up, right? Some of them maybe, are a little bit tougher, have some subtle sorts of storylines or threads that would be more appropriate with an older teenager, but anybody can certainly enjoy these at a surface level at about age 13 or older. So, if you're somebody who's kind of supplementing what your kids are reading at home, or if you're somebody who maybe school was not your thing when you were a teenager, but you're wishing that you'd paid a little more attention or read some things that maybe made you question the way you see the world and the way you interact with the world, then these are a great place to start. I think that these are all really well written. They are applicable to things that are happening in our world right now, regardless even really of where you live or where you fall ideologically or any your level of education. I don't think those things any of them would get in the way of you really reading and appreciating these stories. So I'll list the names of the stories and the authors in the description, but here is the list because I don't want this to be too long. Okay. One that a lot of people are probably familiar with is The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. I think that's a great place to start. And that is probably the most simple story in terms of language, like not in terms of the ideas or the questions or the conversations that could be had as a result, but of the language itself. I also recommend The Pedestrian by Ray Bradbury, who is a really famous science fiction writer. You might have heard of him. To Be or Not to Be by Kurt Vonnegut would be number 3 on my list. Number 4 is Searching for Summer by Joan Aiken. Number 5, The Most Dangerous Game by Richard Connell. Number 6, here's a really classic writer. Number 6 is The Birthmark by Nathaniel Hawthorne. Number 7, A Sound of Thunder, also by Ray Bradbury. Number 8, Harrison Bergeron by Kurt Vonnegut. It's the second one of his on the list. Number 9, The Yellow Wallpaper, which is by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. And number 10, By the Waters of Babylon by Vincent Benet. I used to teach pretty much all of these stories, and one of my favorite things that would happen is the conversations that would result that students would take upon themselves to have with each other after they'd finished some of these stories. And I was always surprised and almost always impressed by some of the subtleties that they were able to grasp and how these stories still have relevance and significance to our lives right now. So I'd love to hear if you know these stories or if you decide to read some of these stories, what you think about them. And I want to do a little better job of suggesting some things for your reading and your watching list that aren't necessarily book length, because I'm hoping that will reach more people. Okay, have a great day.